Hey, what's up? Lightbulb Joe here. Today we are going to discuss the 2007 horror film Saw 4, starring Tobin Bell as John Kramer, aka Jigsaw. We have Amanda Young, Shawnee Smith, very super briefly in this. We have the recurring role of Detective Hoffman. This is really Detective Riggs' test. And then we also have Carrie in it very, very briefly. Eric Matthews from the second Saw. We see him coming back. We see his story come full circle. Still have no idea what happened to Daniel Matthews, his son, but we get a little insight on that. So story it opens up autopsy of Jigsaw on the table. You know, they find the tape that's covered in wax that we see in the third movie that he swallows, that we know he swallows. And Detective Hoffman is the one playing the tape and saying, you know, you think it's over just because I'm dead. No, the games are just beginning. Boom, boom, boom. So that's how it starts. But that's also how it ends. So the middle of this movie is an encompassing of Rig couldn't wait for an all clear to make sure Carrie was okay, but Carrie was obviously dead. And so he jumped the gun and he burst through, and everyone was like, why don't you listen? You know, you can't save everybody. You know, you have to follow orders. You know, you're putting people in danger. So Hoffman says this, you know, a bunch of other people have been saying this. And then special agents Perez and Peter Strahm are introduced into this movie as well. Important characters moving forward in the story. So the special agents are trying to figure out who is helping Jigsaw, because there's no way in hell Jigsaw nor Amanda put Carrie up on this rig to begin with. So there obviously has to be a third accomplice, a second apprentice of the Jigsaw teachings, if you will. Someone who's trying to recruit. They think that it's Rig who's the new apprentice, but they then realize that it's Rig's test. So a lot of these different people are facing their own tests who are connected to Riggs from past events. And then eventually, as the story converges, you'll also have Detective Hoffman and Eric Matthews being held for their own test via this very interesting weight system via water and ice, that Eric is chained up via neck, and he's standing on an ice block, and he has 90 minutes until the ice block melts finally, and before he chokes to death. Or Riggs has to complete his task after 90 minutes to follow the rules and don't go through the door, right? That's the whole premise. Don't go through the door if it's unsecure. That rhymed. But we see this lawyer, Art, who's running the monitors in the same room that Eric Matthews and Detective Hoffman are in during the course of the 90 minutes of Riggs tests, plural. So Art we see in an opening sequence. He had to fight someone for the key around the guy's neck, even though Art's mouth was sewn shut and the guy's eyes were sewn shut, so they couldn't really obviously understand each other. But he himself has done a lot of shady stuff. He's got a lot of people off that should not have been let go. They should have been in jail. They should have been incarcerated. Art is also Jill Tuck and John Kramer's past lawyer. So there's the connection of that. That's why he's involved now. He has his own test. So his test is, he's got strapped to some stuff, but he has to make sure that Hoffman and Matthews play by their rules of waiting till the timer runs out. So that way Riggs, if he pays attention and follows the rules of the Jigsaw game, will save everyone. Obviously, Riggs does not do that with 1 second left of the clock. Eric Matthews shoots him. He plows through the door. Then there's a shootout between Riggs and Art. And then it turns out that this entire story is happening while the entire third movie is happening. And how we know that is because we see Jeff walking through the hallways of that warehouse as Peter Strahm is walking through the warehouse. The same warehouse, following the sounds that Jeff is making, following the lights that Jeff is flickering. We hear Amanda and Jigsaw talking, you know, so save me. Then we see Lynn get caught by Jeff after Amanda shoots him. Then Jeff and Strahm have a shootout, and then Hoffman reveals himself to be the new apprentice. Well, not a new apprentice, but the other apprentice. So that way it's Hoffman and Amanda as the other Jigsaw apprentices, plural. So Hoffman then locks Strahm into the room where Jigsaw died, and that's the last we see of Strahm in this movie. Obviously, moving forward, we'll talk about 5 when we fully watch 5. And then Hoffman takes the key out of the door and then goes somewhere to do something, which we then later find. But this is the movie we were presented. So I remember this was the first film This was 2007. So this was October 2007. So this was the Halloween of my senior year in high school. I was 17 years old. And I saw it with friends in the theaters and my brother. And we were just all blown away because we were like, wait a minute, the fourth movie took place during the third movie? Who thinks of these things? I say this all the time in regards to the Fast and Furious films. If you're not watching it like a soap opera, you're doing it wrong. And I say the same thing about Saw, the Saw franchise. If you're not watching it like a soap opera, you're doing it wrong. These are very intricate stories that overlay. Obviously, there's weird things going on, but you still have to pay attention because it's a full, elaborate story. So we got a lot of backstory in regards to certain things. We know that Hoffman has some kind of dirt on Amanda. That's why she decided to kill Lynn after reading the envelope stuff. So, like, a lot of things are coming about. So we got, again, more questions answered, but we now have more questions. Now, what's Hoffman's involvement? How many traps did Hoffman help Jigsaw with initially? How long has him and Amanda been doing a thing? The only time frame we get in this is Hoffman says to Riggs, Eric Matthews has been missing for 6 months. So we know that between the second movie and the third and fourth, because the third and fourth happened at the same time, it's been 6 months. But what's the time frame moving forward? What's the time frame before all this? We get a lot of backstory in regards to Jill Tuck, their son Gideon, who was killed by Cecil. Cecil was Jigsaw's first test subject, if you will. And Jill Tuck, we get a little glimpse of her in the third movie when Jigsaw is getting that backdoor brain surgery, but we don't actually know really anything about her. So in this movie, we get full interrogations from Peter Strahm to Jill Tuck. We know Jill Tuck's the drug center that she works at, because she's a doctor, what, that's all about, kind of. The fact that Jigsaw, Art, and Jill all had property holdings within the warehouse section where Jigsaw started to first make his traps and things. We start to learn little bits and pieces, and we also get to see the original Billy. The original Billy was not this tall, different face, made of wood, not squishy like this guy, but it's nice to see the little things that we get. So it's a matter of, is Agent Perez actually dead? What happens to Peter Strahm in that room? Where did Detective Hoffman go after he took the key out of the door? Etc., etc. So, thus concludes Saw 4, on to Saw 5. Mucho mahalo.